Alright, hello and welcome everybody to the GPVWC Superleague Lights German Grand Prix round 9 of the season. My name is Jacob Hancox and I will be alongside Ewan Gale in the commentary box today to bring you this fascinating race, and thankfully we've been able to catch at least a little bit of qualifying here, so sorry, we had a couple of issues getting the stream up and running, so sorry for the delayed start. We're currently about halfway through the qualifying session, and as you see at the moment, Alessandro Quintai has got in an absolute banger of a lap, a full 3/10.
I think what Jacob was saying there was that he's a full 0.3 of a second faster than Michael Ayres, although Matthew Williams has just popped in with a 1 minute 12.728 to go, just under 0.2 slower than Alessandro. Jacob, you back yet?
Yeah, hi, sorry, yes, I'm also completely separate to the issues we were having with the stream getting delayed. I'm also having internet issues that all of a sudden have cropped up here, so I apologise for that. I'm probably going to be falling in and out of this.
Yes, there he goes again. Yeah, so just to run you through then at the top 10 at the moment, Alessandro Quintai ahead of Matthew Williams, the two championship protagonists. Michael Ayres winner last time out by the smallest of margins at Silverstone. P3, Amari Watson P4 made the move over to 86E Racing. Sandeep Singh, Quintai's teammate, in 5th. Yukpeka Lalu, consistent as always, P6. Adam Rainey in at V12 Crossfire, P7. Even Leonov, P8, consistent as well. We got Mateo Kiersmacher's P9 and Vodka Hoekstra P10. There is Dino Paolini, who has done a 1:12.546.
Yeah, decent lap time there for Paolini in the Royal Blue Racing car. They're in 13th at the moment. And a few drivers yet to set proper lap times. One of those is Douwe Tapper, who we're seeing on screen right now. Philip Koenig having a bit of an issue there. Philip Koenig driving for the V12 Crossfire team. V12 Crossfire actually with two new drivers here today. Philip Koenig and then the other one whose name is escaping me right now. Adam Rainey, thank you very, very much. Adam Rainey is the other one. So yeah, both of those guys standing in as Omari Watson has jumped ship and gone over to 86E Racing for today. And I don't believe Deegan Fairclough is taking part today.
No, too right. So Omari Watson's gone over to 86. I believe that's in place of Hutchinson, Mark Hutchinson, who is not there anymore. We've also got a few other new drivers down the grid, and we've got Revo with another driver, Ruben Macheda. We've got Sean Jones in at Cosmo Powerworks. We've got Vitaly Rossetti down with HG Esports. So yeah, a few new drivers to keep an eye out as we look at Dabrowski going through the carousel.
Yeah, Dabrowski currently only 20th place right now for the PLS team, and the Polish driver would like to be able to improve a little bit on that one coming towards the end of this flying lap. Will he have been able to do so? coming out across the line, and no, I don't think there was any improvement there. Oh no, one place improvement, sorry. Ahead now of Philip Koenig, who we saw spinning just a moment ago.
Yeah, so not bad for Mateo. It's just sort of where he's been all season. It's good to see Zabinski getting a little bit more form. Only P17 at the moment though, and Volbon still only P16, just can't get anything together. Kintai has actually just gone a little bit faster on his last lap to go just over 2/10 faster than Matthew Williams. So that's interesting. It's the first time in a while that we've seen that Pescara faster in quali trim than the Stacks and Matthew Williams.
Yeah, absolutely, and it might just be sort of driver track preference or something, but Matthew Williams in the practice session just before this was only down in P9. Of course, practice, you never know exactly what setups, what fuel loads, etc. that everyone's running. It was actually Michael Ayers who was at the top of that one as Sandeep Singh just crossed the line to move into 5th there ahead of Matteo Kiersmakers. But at the end of practice, it was Ayers from Kintai, and then Thomas Harvey was in 3rd. So that hasn't necessarily played out that well for Thomas Harvey so far. The English driver yet to set a lap time for TR Blue-Voss in this session. And Michael Ayers managing to improve there to go ahead of Matthew Williams.
Yes, so close between those two, 0.004 seconds around this Hockenheim circuit, but that shows how good Kintai's lap was to be 2/10 faster. Great to see Amari Watson up there in P4 as well, finally showing what he can do, not blighted by any bad luck at all, as we go on board and do a tapper into the final sector of the lap.
Yeah, through this Sachs curb, very, very hard to get the power down on the exit there, but Tapper's managed that well enough. Now the double right-hander, which make up turns 16 and 17 of this 17-corner circuit, using all that curb and a little bit more on the exit of that final corner crossing the line. And into 14th then for the Zederick driver. Down to 15th immediately, though, as that gets displaced. I'm not quite sure who by.
Thomas Harvey up to P4, so just ahead of Amari Watson by the smallest of margins. Officially 0.001 seconds, although that's probably cut to 3 decimal places instead of 4.
Indeed. Now Amari Watson in the 860 racing car. Maybe going to be able to try and fight back on that. With a couple of green sectors so far this lap, it does seem like the British driver is improving in his new team, the new livery as well. Got to get used to seeing that for Omari Watson. Has been driving with V12 Crossfire, as we mentioned, for the whole season so far, but now going to 8.6 e-racing for this race. Out of the final corner, planting the throttle and crossing the line, and lost a bit there in the final sector, down 39 thousandths on his previous best lap time.
Yeah, you could see he was resting the car through the final 2 corners. Front end wasn't complying with him at all. Took a few goes to turn into the final corner, but still not bad. Like we said, up in P5, much better for Amari. We know he's got the speed, just be nice if he can show it. 2 minutes 25 to go, then Kintai is back in the pits. I'm sure we'll see them back out on track for one last lap.
Yeah, and it's really interesting, actually, to see that Kintai just absolutely, the 12.5, I think he improved on his previous 12.5, but just straight out the box, it was a 12.5. The others have been incrementally getting closer. They're up to a 12.7 now, so they're getting closer to his lap time, but it's still not very close. That's still a big, big margin at the level we're talking about here, to have over the likes of Michael Ayers, who won last race, he's won multiple races this season, then Matthew Williams, who's won 5 races this season, is comfortably winning the championship at the moment. So for Kintai to be able to put that lap in with such stiff competition is really, really very impressive.
Well, when you think of the top 20 being separated by only a second, to have a fifth of that between first and second is massive, isn't it? And we've seen how close it's been all season. Even when Matthew Williams has looked dominant, he's been dominant by 1.5 tenths maybe. And that's what we've been saying is a big margin. So over 2 tenths is pretty good, and he looks as if he's got a little bit more pace left in him as Kiersmakers comes across the line to go P4. Great middle sector from the Zedrick.
Yeah, nice stuff there for Matteo Kiersmakers. Had been displaced as time went on by Sandeep Singh, Thomas Harvey, but now back ahead of both of those drivers. Dino Paolini is going again. He's been slowly improving throughout the session, and he slowly improves just a little bit more up into P9 now with that Royal Blue. That moves him ahead of Adam Rainey, who currently sits 10th in his debut for V12 Crossfire.
Yeah, so not a bad outing for Adam at all. P10 at the moment. Same with Macheda actually in the Revo. P14 not bad at all either. We've seen how difficult some of these drivers have found some of their cars this season. You look at people like Yanis Volbon down in P19 where we know how much talent he's got. So, but we've got people who have impressed on their only outings so far. Like we saw Ayers come straight in and make an impact. Dylan Platt at TR Blue Voss last time was brilliant, apart from a final lap problem as James Lambert clouds occurred through the final 2 corners.
Yeah, and that really ruined that final sector, which is a shame because James Lambert was improving over the course of that lap, but currently anchoring the field along with Vitaly Rossetti, those guys 25th and 26th in the order at the moment. And yeah, we saw James Lambert a couple of races ago, back in Austria, I think it was, having a fantastic race for Cosmo Powerworks, getting some good points for the team. Since then, though, that hasn't really turned into a huge sort of flourishing for the team since that point. As now the checkered flag has fallen here in qualifying, so all the laps that people are on, this will be their last attempt. We're watching Vitaly Rossetti at the moment in the HG Esports Blue Bolt, Italian driver in the Italian car, currently down in 26th, though he'll be looking to try and improve in this final sector.
Yeah, talking of improvements, Michael Ayres was slower in his first 2 sectors, but found the beauty of a final sector to improve his time. Still not good enough to beat Kintai Williams, Kiersmakers, Harvey Watson all in the pits. They won't improve. Jukka-Pekka Lalu's improving on his lap, but it's not good enough for Kintai, who's just gone 15.7 in first sector.
Yeah, that's incredible first sector time. And a lot of the difference, in fact, almost all the lap time difference that Kintai is finding is in that first sector. And that's only a couple of corners. So it's all about commitment through the first corner. You'd have to imagine that is where Alessandro Kintai is finding this time at the moment. Not too many drivers in contention still out there on circuit. Let's see Yannis Volborn then in the Razor rounding the final corner, going to cross the line and only squeaking up one more position. Kintai's lost it. So, Kintai will not be able to improve as he loses it out of the final corner, but I don't think it's going to matter because he is nailed on at the top of the order, barring any massive surprises from the like of Jack Mayer, who's still on a lap, Hygo Poom as well, but you can't imagine that they're going to be challenging for pole here.
No, so Jack Mayer's gone P14, he was down in P18, up to P14, then we're 113.2, so half second slower than his teammate is enough to make a difference of 11 positions, but importantly in the points positions, and we know he's had good race pace all season long. But you have a look at the championship battle between the 2 teams, Pescara and Stax, and again Pescara 2 cars in the top 5, Jack Mayer not up there for Stax.
Yeah, it's kind of consistently been the way of it for those teams. Sandeep Singh and Alessandro Kintai, third and second in the championship respectively. Here you see the qualifying order then with Kintai leading the way by almost 0.2 of a second from Michael Ayres. Then Matthew Williams, championship leader in third with a 10th down to Matteo Kiersmakers fourth. Sandeep Singh, Thomas Harvey in 5th and 6th. Amari Watson for 8-6 Racing for the first time in 7th. Jukka-Pekka Lalu always there or thereabouts in 8th this time with his teammate Dino Paolini just behind. In fact, with almost identical lap times, 1,000th between the two of them. And then Adam Rainey driving his first race of the season for V12 Crossfire, managing to get them inside the top 10 as well. And then on to 11 through to 20. That's Ivan Leonov, who looked really good in practice, but couldn't quite deliver on it in qualifying there. The Bulgarian will be starting in 11th with Vodka Hoekstra and Frank Hamming, the 2 HM cars, just behind. Jack Mayer, who we were just talking about, 14th for Stax, with Ruven Macheda in their first race in the season as well, in 15th. Mateusz Dabrowski flying the flag for the PLS team in 16th, with Dawa Tapper going to be disappointed with 17th. Same story for Yannis Volborn. He won't be happy with 18th place. Dylan Platt, who's driving for TR Blue Voss today in 19th, and Matthias Zubinski in 20th. And then the final 6 cars in the field here today. Hygo Poom, 21st. Sean Jones, 22nd for Cosmo Powerworks, out-qualifying his new teammate, James Lambert. Philip Koenig, who we saw spinning earlier in 23rd, with Giuseppe Saracino and Vitaly Rossetti putting the Blue Bolts only in 24th and 25th. And then James Lambert at the very back of the grid, and a fair few tenths off as well. So now I believe we're going to be going on to the formation lap. We'll have the little warm-up session, of course, as well, before we actually get into the race itself. So for now, we're going to go to a quick break while the drivers get themselves all warmed up and ready for the race session, and we'll be back soon for the race itself. Welcome back then, everybody. Warm-up has come to its conclusion here for the GPVWC Superleague Lights Round 9 race, the German Grand Prix at the Hockenheim Ring. My name is Jacob Hancox. Joining me in the commentary box is Ewan, Gale, and broadcasting for us today on the cameras, it's Tom Stevens.
Good as always, Tom, isn't he? Good as always, on it as ever.
Indeed. So the drivers are just now getting every last detail sorted out before they go on the formation lap. As you can see, this marks us moving past the halfway point in the season. And the next Grand Prix in a couple of weeks' time will be the French and then Belgian Grand Prix. So we're on a very European tour at the moment. But for now, we are here in Hockenheim with this infamous long straight that's not even really a straight. Technically, it's all turn 5, the parabolica that leads up towards the hairpin. There's going to be a lot of action there, and the DRS is going to be so important.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's going to be a very similar race, I think, to every single race that we've had before. It's going to be a DRS train through stint 1, making sure you don't give your rivals any advantage. And then you're going to get clever with strategy. That's when the gaps will start opening up, and that's when we're going to get the action in stint 2 and stint 3, as we have done all season. We've had pretty much an exceptional race through every single race. Let's see if we can have the same year.
Is now the formation lap is beginning, and there is Alessandro Quintai leading away from pole position. As we can see, Alessandro Quintai on pole with Michael Ayers alongside the winner of the last race. Matthew Williams, championship leader, third, with Matteo Kiersmakers, the Belgian, in the Zederick, starting in fourth. Behind them, we have Sandeep Singh in the second Pescara, along with Thomas Harvey, the first of the TR Bluvos cars. Amari Watson in his first race for 8.6 E-Racing will be starting seventh, with Jukka-Pekka Lalu just behind in eighth. Behind them, it is Jukka-Pekka Lalu's teammate Dino Paolini in ninth, with Adam Rainey in his first race for V12 Crossfire in 10th. Ivan Leonov is 11th, with Vodka Hoekstra in 12th. Hoekstra's teammate Hamming is just in behind in 13th, with Jack Mayer down in 14th, not able to match his teammate's performance in qualifying. Ruven Macheda in 15th for Revo Racing, another debutant, with Matthias Dobrovsky in 16th. Douwe Tapper will be starting 17th, disappointed with that. So will Janis Volborn be in 18th. Dylan Platt, another new driver in the TR Bluvos in 19th, with Matthias Subinski in 20th. Hygo Poom starting at 21st for TTF Racing, with Sean Jones, another new name, in 22nd. Philip Koenig, another new name, in 23rd. And then that was Giuseppe Saracino in 24th, Vitaly Rossetti in 25th, James Lambert 26th, and Pascal Polens has been able to join us for the race. Wasn't able to participate in qualifying, but will be the 27th and final car on the grid for Razor GP.
Looking forward to this one. Bit of strategy to be played with as well. We'll see if anyone dares anything other than a soft, medium, soft, whether they try and maybe go too soft, get a bit of a break on their rivals, and then take the mediums to the end. Soft, medium, soft has been the way to go all season long, really. So, as we come round to the grid, Quintai will be looking for a good start. Of course, these two on the front row were the guys that gave us such a close finish last time out at Silverstone.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be massively, massively important who gets to that first corner first. And then particularly who gets to turn 6 in the lead. Because always, you know, if you enter turn 1 in second, it's not necessarily the end of the world because there's that huge run up that even without DRS, you're going to be having a slipstream on the big flat out section before turn 6. So watch for cars trying to pass each other on the opening lap there.
Yeah. All set then to go on the grid. Kintai, Ayres, Williams, the big three, all ready to go. Let's ignite the lights, let's get yourself comfortable. We're going to be in for one hell of a ride. Top 10, all on soft tyres, laying off on the mediums. Just waiting for the lights to go. It's good. It's a really good start from Matthew Williams in P3 actually, as Kintai got away nicely as well. Ayres going backwards already as Williams looks up the inside. He'll get chopped off. Kintai, perfect start. Look at Ayres now going to be all over the back of Williams because he got cut off, as we've got plenty of cleanness in the background as well through turn 1. That's nice to see. Into turn 2 we go then, still all clean as we come through onto the long back straight. Will anyone dare a move up the inside? Look at Michael Ayres stalking Matthew Williams down into the hairpin. Kintai goes and covers the inside, realise close enough. Ayres back into P2, brilliant move.
Absolutely. So Matthew Williams' fantastic start off the line already coming to naught there, with Michael Ayres making up for it straight away into that turn 6, which I mentioned before the race. Meanwhile, behind, that's Jukka-Pekka Lalu and Jack Harvey, I think, or Sandeep Singh also involved in that as well. 3 blue cars in a row together in 5th, 6th and 7th. It's Singh from Harvey from Jukka-Pekka Lalu. Further down, it looks like Giuseppe Saracino's had a good start. He's found his way up into 18th. Jack Mayer only made up 1 position so far, and in the thick of this battle here, and that's Rainey just ahead, Adam Rainey and Frank Hamming just behind the purple stacked racing car there. And they will have to go single file then for the final sector here. Not much room for racing on this very narrow part of the track.
No, but it's nice that it sort of lends itself to a little bit of side-by-side action just because they keep swapping back on each other. What these guys got to be careful of is don't fight too early, because you drop out that DRS before DRS is activated, you're going to be losing time every single lap. Don't ruin your race on lap 1. Keep yourself in with the chance.
So of the drivers that started outside the top 10, Adam Rainey, Reuven Meshede and Pascal Polenz are the only ones who opted for soft tyres, all of the rest on mediums. And there's Jukka-Pekka Lalu looking at the rear end of Thomas Harvey into the braking zone here. He's going to have to try and go around the outside, and he's just about keeping himself in there, forcing Harvey to give him some room on the exit of that corner, and that'll give him the better run down through 7 around the outside. Brave stuff from Jukka-Pekka Lalu, but it's just about coming off. Harvey is still interested in fighting for this position. But into turn 9, there is simply no way to keep that one up. Meanwhile, look at the front. Ayres into the lead.
P1. They were side by side exactly the same as Lalu and Harvey were through that middle section, and Ayres has managed to find his way into the lead. So Ayres has got plenty of pace. Shame he didn't get off the line as well, because now he's had to make 2 overtaking maneuvers. Kintai actually looking a little bit slower, although we saw in Silverstone he went longer on the first stint. Maybe he's just looking after the tyres.
Yeah, that is always going to be a possibility here for the Italian, because the pace was so incredible in qualifying that you can't imagine the race trim is going to suit Kintai that much worse. You've got to still imagine that he is still feeling very, very good about his chances at this circuit. Looking down there, you can see Giuseppe Saracino up 6 positions from where he started. A few other drivers not had such a great time. Philip Koenig has dropped down to the back of the field. Sean Jones lost a fair few positions, down from 20th to 25th as well. And meanwhile, it's mainly Saracino that's been able to make up places. Hoekstra's had a good start as well. He's gone from 12th into 10th.
With 24-degree track temperature, we've got front tyres that are going to be screaming all the way throughout with the mid to high speed corners around Hockenheim. Also, you've got your traction critical hairpin there, which really sets up the overtaking moves throughout the rest of the lap. So all of the tyres are going to be key for degradation, and this is probably why you're going to see some of the lap time start off slowly, although Michael Ayres hasn't got that memo. He's going to go and try and make a gap, already trying to stretch out ahead of the DRS activation gap. If he can do that, get a second ahead of Kintai, then he's going to be sitting pretty. Of course, he hasn't got what everyone else has got behind, which is the turbulent air, which is going to ruin those front tyres.
There's a few drivers who are going to be a little bit nervous right now, because we're getting to the stage where DRS is going to start coming online, and Thomas Harvey, Sandeep Singh, Dino Paolini and Ruben Machedo down in 17th. They're all flirting with danger, flirting with being outside of that DRS range of the cars ahead. Matthew Williams now also maybe struggling to keep within DRS range of Kintai and Ayers. Here is Kintai all over the rear wing of Ayers, but does not feel the need to try and make a move on Ayers, who can maintain his position at the very front. Here is Jukka-Pekka Laulu battling once again. This time it's with Sandeep Singh, so Jukka-Pekka Laulu on a real charge at the moment.
Yeah, and it's the two guys that you said were struggling to stay within DRS, Sandeep Singh and Tom Sarvi. Both of them have just lost out down the straight with DRS. And Murray Watson up into P7 as we saw Harvey going wide. And as we said, Lalu all over the back of Singh actually got a little bit squirrely out of the hairpin. That's why he didn't have the run into turn 7 and 8.
Yeah, so obviously, as you can see it, as you mentioned, you see it immediately. As soon as they lose that DRS, as soon as the other cars get that DRS, they're just sitting ducks on that huge flat-out section. So that's something that Ayers, Kintai, Williams, they're going to have a lot of tactical battling as well as just flat-out pace. There's going to be a lot of tactics involved in trying to get DRS at the right time. And, of course, the tyre strategy as well is going to play a big factor.
Yeah, definitely. And what we've seen here is that the fast three up front, Ayers, Kintai, Williams, already a second ahead plus of Kersmakers, but Singh and Lalu battling has put them 1.7 off the back of the Zedric car, and that's going to allow Kersmakers to just go on his own race now and wait for someone up in the top three to make a mistake and perhaps take advantage of that as Lalu goes up the inside and should get it done this time.
Yeah, second time of asking. Jukka-Pekka Laulu sends it up the inside, but once again, the squirrely moment on the exit. That's what you called out last time, and it's happened again to that Royal Blue Racing car. He's still in with a shout of going side by side through 8, but covering off the line is Singh, and Sandeep Singh will maintain that position. Frustrating here for Jukka-Pekka Laulu.
So easy to do when you're on such a tight line, and obviously the more you do it, the more your tyres overheat, and the more likely it's going to happen again. So Jukka-Pekka Laulu's just got to rein it in a little bit, get a little bit less trigger happy on the throttle. He's obviously got the pace down the straight with the DRS, so just a bit of patience. And you know, like we said, you don't want to ruin those tyres, because the earlier you come in, you're going to ruin your chances at the end of the race when you're having to save your tyres up as everyone else is bolting on the lower fuel load.
One driver who's in a bit of the no man's land right now is Matteo Kersmakers, currently sitting 4th. The Belgian not quite able to live with the pace of the front three, but comfortably dealing with Sandeep Singh's pace behind, of course being helped by the fact that Lalu and Singh have been battling so much there and slowing each other up. But it's a pretty good situation for Kersmakers to be in. Obviously, he would love to be up there with the front three, but if you can't be, then, you know, being in that no man's land in 4th, that's a pretty nice place to be.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, he's out of any trouble. He's out of any carnage at the moment. He can look after his tyres. He can go on a bit of a blitz if he wants to at the end of the stint, or he can extend his stint and come into play later on in the race. So perfect for Mateo Kersmakers at the moment. Interestingly, Singh and Lalu's battle has pulled Watson and Harvey back towards them. They're into DRS range as well. So Lalu's now got to be careful that if he doesn't make the move, he's then got to look in his mirrors and make sure that Watson or Harvey don't come steaming through as well.
Yeah, and that's a huge train of cars that are all either within a second or almost within a second, all the way down, even beyond Hygo Pum, really, down to James Lambert in 24th. Everyone there from 5th place down to 23rd, basically within touching distance of one another if they all stretched out really hard and tried to hold hands. So, yeah, there's a lot that could still change. And if one of those decides to pull a major undercut on everyone else, could find themselves gaining any number of positions.
Yeah, you know, we've said all the way through the season, the first stint is all about keeping yourself in with a chance. Then you play your strategic game. Interestingly, last time out in Silverstone, Ayers beat everyone in the first stop with an undercut, but Kintai also got ahead of Matthew Williams with an overcut. So it's sort of, you do what suits you. Just to do a bit of housekeeping as well, Vitaly Rossetti, the HG Esports newbie, is already out of the race. He is DNF'd a few laps ago, so shame for him. But just the one DNF, which is a nice change after the last few races with a few bits of chaos.
Yeah, gotta say, really commending everyone on such a clean start, especially with so many new drivers in the field that would be so keen to prove themselves. Really, really impressed to see that none of them have done anything a bit sort of overreaching, shall we say, on the opening lap of this one. So credit where credit is due to all of these drivers. Here is one of those new drivers, Adam Rainey, in 11th position at the moment. And currently just sticking with Vodka Hoekstra up ahead. Of course, all these cars in a train, all basically going to Sandeep Singh's pace right now. So there's not a whole lot of agency for them to show their pace relative to one another.
No, and you have a look at the best lap times of the whole race. 1:15.7 for Rez, 1:15.7 for Kintai, 1:15.9 for Williams, 1:15.8 for Kersmakers, 1:16.2 for Sandeep Singh. Even Lalu behind 1:15.7. Not having that DRS for even one lap is costing half a second a lap. That's how powerful the DRS is around Hockenheim.
Yeah, and I mean, you could obviously say, well, with Jukka-Pekka Laulu behind doing that 15.7 earlier in the race, you know, maybe Jukka-Pekka is going to be able to, maybe he's being held up by Sandeep Singh. Maybe if he could get past, he'd be able to close down Matteo Kersmakers. But as soon as he loses that DRS, it's not going to be so easy to pump in those 15.7 sort of lap times. So it's not necessarily a given that Jukka-Pekka Laulu would just be able to drive away from Singh if he was to get past.
No, but what's interesting is now that he's sat behind, now he's already bridged the gap and tried to make his move. Now he's just sat in that turbulent, dirty air and he's struggling to get close enough to make the move again. Same with Watson behind after bridging the gap, can't get close enough to make the move again. So, you know, these guys are going to have to wait until they're on different tyre strategies with, you know, different lap life on their tyres later in the race, to then decide, right now is when I'm going to make my move. You either make the move on the first lap of reaching your opponent, or you've just got to nurse your tyres until your pit stop window. Expecting somewhere between 15 and 18 laps on the reds, maybe about 20, 21, 22 on the yellow. So anywhere within that range, you're going to be looking to make a pit stop. It'll be interesting to see who goes for the early stops and then a bit more tyre conservation, who's going to try and stretch the first stint out and come back at the end like Kintai did at Silverstone lap.
And for those who started outside the top 10 who have elected to go for the soft tyres, it's worked out for Vodka Hoekstra here, who has been able to gain a couple of positions, started down in 12th, now up there in 10th, as you can see on your screens at the moment. Ruben Macheda, however, did also start on those red walled soft tyres, but I think actually lost a position or two off the start line, unless I'm very much mistaken. Pascal Polen started at the very back on softs as well. He's only been able to find his way up into 23rd, so it's not necessarily, you know, if everyone else seems to think that they want to start on the medium tyres for strategy purposes, it's not necessarily working out well enough right now for Reuven and perhaps for Pascal Polens as well for them to justify that decision to start on those softs.
The only thing I would say for Macheda is, obviously with it being his first race of the season in the series, you know, having a bit of confidence on those reds to get through your first stint. Worry about your result later on in the day. We know that if you're still running at the end, the likelihood is you've got a chance of points, especially he's right in the heart of that midfield battle at the moment. Volborn's holding them up with no DRS, with Platt and then Macheda behind, the Saraceno's over his back. But he's got that confidence on those red tyres. So just get into the race, get his rhythm, and then he'll probably go medium softs like I imagine most people will if they started on soft.
You can see there, visualized for you, the train from Sandeep Singh down to about Jack Mayer in 13th, but then is where the gap has begun to form. Frank Hamming is falling well away from this train of cars at the moment. The HM Engineering driver not quite able to match the pace of Sandeep Singh and the rest of the crew, and so that's sort of gapping the field a little bit, you know, perforating it a bit. It's going to be bad news for the likes of Yannis Volbo and Platt Macheda, who are basically going to be stuck going at Hamming's pace for a little while here. Because if Hamming isn't fast enough for them to stick with the higher point scoring finishes, they're quickly going to see any chance of getting anything higher than about a 14th going out the window. That is, of course, until you factor in spins and crashes, which I'm sure we'll have a couple of before the end of this race.
Now, interestingly, with the DRS train, though, keeping everyone close together, the front guys on the softs who are going to have to make their pit stop earlier than some of the guys on mediums, there's going to be a lot of traffic to get through. So does that take away the undercut? Does that make people, you know, act a bit more sheepishly and try and stay out, try and push the tyres a little bit? We'll see what happens. The good thing is it's nice and easy to overtake on fresh tyres, you know, with the 2 DRS zones, especially down into the hairpin. But do you want to lose the time on your outlap, on your first flying lap, making those moves on the slower guys in the field? And when we say slower, they're not that slow, as you can see by the times. You know, they're all within 20 seconds. 20 seconds on the road is only 20 seconds down, so that's just over a car a second, isn't it? So we've got a bit of a sideways moment behind Hygo Poom.
Was that Zubinski or Dabrowski? I think it was Zubinski there and Saracino who went into one another. I noticed that Saracino was battling with Hygo Poom as well. Poom seems to have got away with that without any issue, but I did see the PLS car of Zubinski going round, and of course Saracino as well. So I said we'd probably see a couple of spins and crashes before the end of this race. Well, there is one of our first ones here on lap 12.
Yeah, and we've seen it down the years at that corner. You've got the run from the hairpin, and you've got the kink, and they're both battling. And it's just the guy on the outside. I think it was Saracino coming in. He's got the right to take the line. Obviously, Zubinski wasn't far enough up alongside. It's just one of those racing incidents that happens. Saracino comes into the pits then to probably replace either a damaged wing, or he's lit the tyres up trying to get it turned around the right way.
Yeah, that's a shame for Giuseppe Saracino, who had a really positive start to this race after a really disappointing qualifying, starting down in, I think it was 26th position, or maybe 25th ahead of Vitaly Rossetti. Either way, the two blue bolts were 25th and 26th. And Giuseppe Saracino had made such good progress off the start, and then to have it all come to nothing as a result of an incident with another car, that's always going to be galling. That's always going to leave you driving angry for the rest of the race. So it's going to, Giuseppe Saracino is going to have to make the effort right now to make sure that he doesn't get too much in his own head about it and just tries to keep driving his own race. It's not over yet for him unless he DNFs, which he has, so never mind. It is all over for him.
I was just about to say, as Lalu comes into the pits, actually, that's interesting. So quite an early stop for Jukka-Pekka Lalu, usually so good at extending his stint. So whether he's thinking, I've had enough of this, I'm sat behind Sandy Ping, of course, he has tried to make the moves. He was lighting his rear tyres up. Maybe he's run out of tyres a bit earlier than expected. Lap 13 or the end of lap 12 even, quite an early one as Kintai goes back into the lead down the inside of Ayres.
Yeah, Kintai sending it this time, so the ceasefire has been called to an end, and Alessandro Kintai is the one to shoot first in the battle for the race lead here on lap 13. And does that maybe suggest that Alessandro Kintai is planning to pit at the end of this lap?
If it's not the end of the lap, it's going to be very soon, but it's interesting. If he's already thinking about that, then, that's still earlier than we expect. Like we said, we expected sort of 15 to 18, not lap 13, lap 14. But we did see as well that Ayres eats up his tyres a little bit more than these two guys as he's starting to struggle a little bit. And as Kintai gone, I'm going to use the tyres I saved up at the start of the race to finish my stint, go on for a bit of a blast.
Yeah, and he's almost managed to break DRS range already. There it is. You can see it 1.1 seconds as they exit turn 1. It's going to be very, very close in the detection zone whether Ayres can pull that out or not. And that's going to make a big difference because if Kintai has been able to drop Ayres from DRS range in time here for this long straight, and it seems like it is indeed the case, this is terrible news then for Michael Ayres and bad news for Matthew Williams as well. He'll want to get past Michael Ayres as quick as possible because otherwise there's a significant chance that Kintai can just drive away at the front.
Yeah, and Williams wasn't close enough to make that move into the hairpin, so as he's going to get held up now for all the way through the middle sector, Kintai's got a nice bit of fresh air to just get on with his job. Perfect for Alessandro Kintai. Matthew Williams won't be panicking out. He's got a big enough championship lead. Doesn't need to do anything stupid, of course, but he doesn't want to see that car, that Pescara, going into the distance, become a little speck in front of him.
Absolutely, so that's got to be what the decision-making is going to be centered around right now. Jukka-Pekka Lalu, by the way, after pitting, came out down in 22nd, has just passed Pascal Polens for 21st position. But going for the undercut, there's the traffic that you mentioned, and here we see the battling traffic as well. This is only a few cars up from where Lalu is right now, and that's Hygo Poom getting past Ruben Macheda for P16.
There you go, Kintai, fastest lap of the race with a fastest final sector, 3/10 faster than Michael Ayres through that final sector, and good 6/10 faster throughout the whole lap. So Alessandro Kintai is absolutely lit the touch paper, and he is getting on with it. Williams can't follow Ayres close enough through turns 2 and 3, and that's giving him too much to do in the DRS zone down into the hairpin around the Parabolica. So it looks as if Ayres has got the measure on Williams at the moment. Maybe Williams hasn't quite got the front end he needs to get through those two corners to get out onto the straight.
That last lap time from Kintai is impressive and intimidating for the rest of the field. It is a full over 3/10 faster than anything anyone else has done in the whole field thus far this race. So that is really quite something as Pascal Polens is now into the pit lane. He started on the soft tyres. He's going for a set of mediums. Here is Jack Mayer battling with, I believe that's going to be Ivan Leonov there in the Revo. Jack Mayer sending it up the inside, getting past Leonov. Leonov goes for the switchback, but there's not enough road on the exit for Leonov to get the power down, and Jack Mayer moves up into 11th.
So yet again, Jack Mayer getting on with it in the race up to P11 now after qualifying, and he's the lead of the medium tyre runners. So again, looking for valuable points. He's got Singh and Kintai doing well as Matthew Williams comes into the pit lane. So we were saying that maybe he was starting to struggle to keep up with Ayres. Maybe he's burned his tyres up more than front two. Matthew Williams in first.
Well, even if he hadn't burned up his tyres, if he couldn't get past Ayres, he was going to be losing so much time to Alessandro Kintai that his only potential opportunity, his only possibility is to pit right now and to hope that he can try and undercut Kintai to get back within that DRS range once the Pescara comes into the pit lane. But it's not going to be that easy because, as you can see, there's some traffic up ahead. That traffic, that is Dylan Platt and the TR Blue Boss and Janis Volborn just ahead as well. They're both on medium tyres, so their tyres are still going to be in pretty decent shape compared to those on the softs who are really starting to struggle.
Yeah, he's got at least 3 or 4 laps, you'd think, behind these guys if he can't get out of the way. Now, of course, he's got much fresher tyres, he'll have much better traction, he'll have much better front end grip all the way around the lap. The problem is that Platt and Volborn are, of course, battling as well. So if Platt fancies a move, he's going to block the move for Matthew Williams. Interesting to see, do Kintai or Ayres respond this lap? Ayres does, Kintai continues for another lap.
Kintai continuing, and I wonder if that's the right call there for the Italian. Maybe all Kintai needs to do is just block off whatever attempt Matthew Williams is making right now. It does seem like Alessandro Kintai has the ultimate pace here, and if you go on the same strategy as someone you're faster than, chances are you're going to finish up ahead, but always, you can never really guarantee that you're going to be faster than this man, Matthew Williams. But for now, you pretty much can do, because Williams is still stuck behind the Blue Voss there, not been able to get past Dylan Platt quite yet. As where did Ayres come out of the pits? Ayres came out of the pits ahead. So you can see there the overcut has been pulled off by Ayres as a direct result of Williams being stuck in this traffic. You can see he's desperate to get past. Now look how close he is already before they even got into the DRS zone. The DRS is open, but so is it for Dylan Platt up ahead. It's going to have to be a very late braking move if Williams wants to even manage to get past. There's Volborn in the middle of the road up ahead. That's not going to help him. He's not going to have the freedom of the line, but he does push Platt wide just a little bit there and moves up into 10th, but there's still one car between himself and Michael Ayres.
Yeah, so Ayres actually came out with roughly the same gap over Matthew Williams as he had before the pit stops. Problem is look at how much grip Williams has got, but he can't get through there. The reason Kintai stayed out is because Kintai went a second faster than Janis Volborn, who now Williams is trying to get through on, and he does, into the stadium section. So that's really brave from Matthew, even though he's got those fresher tyres. But he was a full second slower on the lap as Kintai and now Kiersmak has come through.
So what were our two leading cars at the end of that lap have now come into the pit lane. Amari Watson in the 8.6 car also in the pit lane. Here is his teammate for the day, Michael Ayres, who is still ahead. He's not going to come out ahead of Alessandro Kintai, but there you can see Kintai not too far away. And I wonder where Kiersmakers is as well. Kiersmakers was just too far away to get anything done on Matthew Williams. He's actually comfortably behind. And Ayres now has Frank Hamming in between himself and Kintai. Hamming does have the DRS from the Pescara up ahead, so the HM won't be that easy to pass. He thinks about going defensive, but in the end, Ayres is just completely able to out-drag him on the way down towards turn 6. And now, battle can be rejoined between Kintai and Ayres. Meanwhile, there's Janis Volborn, and that is Dylan Platt, who has now been able to get past the German.
And we said about the gaps maybe stopping the undercut from working. Well, perfect example. Look at the gap between Williams and Michael Ayres now. 1.6, 1.7 seconds by the time you factor in the gap to Hamming as well. Really, really bad news for Matthew Williams, that. But if he didn't have any tyres left, what could he do?
It is Matthias Jubinski with Vodka Hoekstra all over his case at the moment. Just ahead of them is Jukka-Pekka Laulu. He was the first driver to pit strategically off of the softs and onto the medium tyres. Oh, and that's a big moment there. That's Vodka Hoekstra off the road and now rejoining directly alongside Dino Paolini, who can't find a way around the outside of the Sachs curve. It's always very difficult to try and pull off moves there. New best lap time of the race set by Matthew Williams, so it's not all over yet. Williams definitely has a couple more tricks up his sleeve.
He does, but he's going to have to use some of that precious tyre grip to close back in, make sure he's back in DRS. Of course, Ayres will have DRS on Kintai. Williams did have DRS on that last lap. He won't have it this lap because Hamming has gone out of the way. So Hamming has come into the pits. That's going to hurt Matthew Williams. It looks as if the only one out of the initial starters on the mediums in the top 5 not to pit, actually, sorry, Dylan Platt in 5th as well, but Jack Mayer looking stacked. He's managing to stretch his stint out. And now we've got pandemonium in the midfield as everyone starts to shuffle their way through the pit stop phase.
Yeah, so some of these drivers have pitted, some of them haven't, and that means that a lot of them are much faster than the guys that haven't pitted right now. So that's why there's so much chaos going on in the middle of the pack. It's hard to make sense of it all. What I can tell you is that Jukka-Pekka Laulu has lost out 3 positions at least as a result of going for the very aggressive undercut. It didn't work. There was too much traffic for the Finn to try and make his way through, and as a result, Amari Watson, Sandeep Singh was already ahead of him, but the whole intention was for Jukka-Pekka Laulu to undercut him. He's not managed to do that. But Watson and Harvey are now both ahead of Laulu, and they have all pitted.
And the problem now for Jukka-Pekka is it's going to be so hard to bring that back when he's going to have to probably stop the first out of everyone else again on the next stint, and then struggle as Hoekstra is going to take advantage of Dabrowski's wide moment at turn 1. You'd think maybe tucking back in to get the DRS. Make sure you can follow the PLS through turn 2 and 3, setting him up absolutely beautifully, and Vopka surely will make a move for DRS down into the hairpin.
Textbook stuff from Vopka Hoekstra as long as the move comes off at the end. This is the final part of the fight. Look how much they're battling just in behind as well. And they're still defending Dabrowski on the inside from Vopka Hoekstra. And just behind it's Dabrowski's teammate Zubinski, who's battling with Dino Paolini. Rainey's in there as well. Rainey hasn't had a good time of the pit stop phase. Here once again goes Vopka Hoekstra up the inside there of turn 8. And this time the move does stick. Now you have the 2 PLS cars in tow with one another, Dabrowski, Zubinski, and then Rainey and Leonov, who are both being held up by those poles at the moment.
Yeah, so the confidence that Vopka had to break later down into turn 7 and 8 was just supreme on those fresher tyres. That's why he managed to make a move. But actually Dabrowski did so well to defend into the hairpin. He made his move early on in the straight, as I think that's Zubinski coming in his teammates. So Zubinski behind picks first. Interesting from PLS. We've also got Doatapa, who's in the top 10, pitting for his first stop. So now we're starting to circle back through to where the top 10 should have been.
Yeah, so these are guys pitting from mediums then onto soft tyres. Hygo Poom is currently on softs. Ivan Leonov is currently on softs as well in 14th. Here's Matteo Kiersmakers getting past Dylan Platt. Platt still yet to pit, and Kiersmakers goes deep into the braking zone, allowing a wide open way for Pat Platt to regain that position. Platt going to be losing time battling with Kiersmakers, and being a pit stop down is not necessarily Platt's fight right now. As you can see, these guys are now 8 seconds behind Matthew Williams up ahead, but Platt still wanting to defend that position as best he can. Dabrowski getting pushed wide there, having a lot of trouble battling with everyone on the fresher tyres and not giving any of the time of day there to Dino Paolini. The Royal Blue racing car still stuck down in 15th.
Yeah, wrong place, right time for Paolini there. He needed to be on the inside as Dabrowski was going wide, but he just couldn't get the switch back done. Interesting that we've got people pitching onto medium strategies. Wonder if the tyre deg is a little bit higher than we thought. In that DRS train in midfield, your Frank Hammonds, your Yanis Vorbons onto the medium tyres for their second stint. Haven't been in that midfield battle all the way through. Vopka Hoekstra, after his pit stop, goes fastest of all, 1:15.314.
Look who it is out at the front. It's Jack Mayer, the teammate of Matthew Williams. And look how close Williams now is. Williams sending it up the inside there last minute on Michael Ayres. Oh, and he couldn't quite pull it off under traction, but that was brave there from Matthew Williams. Look, Jack Mayer, he's doing the best a teammate could possibly be doing for Matthew Williams right now. Look how much time he's helped Matthew Williams to catch up on these cars. He doesn't even show a hint of trying to block off Williams on the exit of that corner. He didn't do enough for Williams to get past either Ayres or Kintai, but he's well within DRS range of both of them again. So that's job done as far as stacked racing are concerned.
Hard but fair for Jack. I wonder how much time he's going to lose trying to get those valuable points at the bottom of the top 15. Hard but fair though from Jack, but I can tell you Michael Ayres will be furious inside his Cymric, because that really hurt him, and they almost had a collision down in a hairpin. Williams actually got a little bit sideways on the brakes. So yeah, interesting, as Macheda has actually just dropped down to P20 as well, so he's starting to drop down the order. I think Singh's just got back past Watson as well.
Laulu being past Platt because Platt is in the pit lane. Jack Mayer, as soon as he's done his job holding up Kintai and Ayres, then into the pit lane as well, compromising his own strategy in the name of team play. And I think that's very admirable stuff there from Jack Mayer. Here is Jukka-Pekka Laulu, who will feel that he's 2, maybe 3 positions behind where he ought to be right now. And he's got older tyres, considerably older tyres than the few cars ahead of him. But he does seem like he's one of the fastest cars out there at the moment. Jukka-Pekka has had a lot of pace throughout the race here, not necessarily in qualifying, but in the race itself, he's been very impressive. But there's still a train of cars up ahead. Usually, this will get separated out by the pit stops, but there's still 3 cars in a train, and when you're the 4th in that train, it's almost impossible to pass the guy who's 3rd in that one.
Yeah, we're going to have Rainey trying to look up the inside of Jack Mayer. So Jack Mayer actually still came out in P11, so he had good enough speed, even though he was playing the donkey role. But interestingly, Kintai's now 1.5 ahead, and he's just going faster and faster. He's actually, he did the fastest lap on the previous lap, 1:15.3. He's just gone 3/10 faster. Absolutely flying in the Pescara, and Ayres hasn't got an answer to him at the moment. Williams all over the back of him.
It looks to me like Kintai is head and shoulders above the rest in terms of just raw pace and comfort at this circuit. 1.5 seconds out at the front doesn't sound like a huge margin, but considering that there's been a lot of spanners thrown in those works, as here comes Williams then on Ayres, he's going to look for the switchback through 6, but can't find the traction. Michael Ayres holding him at arm's reach for now. This is pretty bad news once again for Williams. He had this in the first stint, and now you can see he doesn't want to wait around, dives down the outside. But that was always going to be more optimistic than realistic, and Ayres holding on to second still. Williams desperately needs to get past him to try and keep Kintai on a leash.
I was amazed to see him go that late on the brakes. I couldn't believe he was not going to run wide. He did run wide, but not as wide as I thought he would. So brave stuff from Matthew Williams. He knows he's got to get past because he can see Kintai just disappearing into the sunset.
So top 10 at the moment: Kintai, Ayres, Williams, Kiersmacher, Singh, Watson, Harvey, Lalu, Hoekstra and Leonov, with Jack Mayer actually not being very compromised at all, despite playing that donkey role, as you mentioned, down there in 11th, ahead now of Adam Rainey, who was a couple of positions behind before the pit stops began. Dino Paolini also lost out. Both Royal Blue cars lost out pretty significantly in the pit lane shenanigans there. Janus Volborn has been slowly creeping his way up the order. He's in 15th at the moment on a set of medium tyres. Here's Thomas Harvey looking lively in the midfield with Amari Watson just ahead of him. Watson, no DRS. This is going to be a bought and paid for move here for the Blue Boss.
Yeah, should be easy. He didn't go defensive. I think Watson knew exactly what was coming. Now he's going to try and file and make sure he's got the DRS on the next lap. Interestingly, he's actually not got much of the traction either, so whether Harvey's managed to just nurse his tyres a little bit better than Amari through this phase of the race, I don't know, but that looks pretty easy, like taking candy from a baby.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's just the difference that drag reduction system can make. Alessandro Kintai currently only 1.3 seconds ahead of Michael Ayres. Ever since those couple of laps that Kintai set that were just absolute sort of rocket ship laps, he's not really gapping them any further right now. And I suspect that's all within control, right? That's all just him managing the tyres.
Well, he's just popped in a 1:15.2, which is pretty much the same as what Ayres did on that lap. The problem is that the lap before was a 1:15.9, so he must have had a bit of a scruffy moment somewhere to lose 9/10 of a second of lap time. Even if he was holding back a little bit, I would have expected a 1:15.4, 1:15.5. That's enough, just releasing the throttle through the corner or something. As we got yellows out in sector 3, I think it might be Platt who's plummeting, and he is, yeah. So Dylan Platt out the race, unfortunately. Has plenty of pace, but couldn't keep it on the tarmac. Don't know what happened. We'll try and find out.
I was just about to say, Dylan Platt just set a purple middle sector. He's flying out there on his fresh soft tyres. Well, he's not flying anymore, not anywhere any quickly. Maybe flying back home from Hockenheim ring back to his home, because, yeah, that is a DNF now for Dylan Platt. Maybe flying a bit too close to the sun there.
Yeah, turn about too close to something. Matthew Williams, 2 wheels on the gravel coming into the stadium, just really pushing in the stacks. That was a little bit hairy. That's not something you want to be doing, not 26 laps into a race, because I mean, it only takes a little bit too much throttle when you're going around. So really pushing now, Matthew. He is right on the edge of Dijon.
Yeah, and that turn 12, that's such an inviting corner. It's one of those corners that sort of almost calls to it. It's like a siren song. You can take just a few more miles per hour through here. I promise you can. You can't. You're in the gravel if you try and do that. We saw, I think it was it Dawatapa or Vodka Hoekstra? One of the two. I think it was Vodka Hoekstra actually. into that gravel earlier on. He was able to actually get going again pretty easily, but it will lose you time, and it can go a lot worse than what we saw for the Dutchman earlier in the race. So yeah, Matthew Williams, a bit of a cautionary tale for him on that lap to make sure he's not going to be getting too close to that gravel ever again. Amari Watson close behind Thomas Harvey here. Harvey passed him a couple laps ago. Hasn't been able to gap him that much since, but critically, Watson isn't exactly getting back past him in a hurry.
Now, I wonder if Watson is just thinking, Harvey was close enough to make a move. Don't waste time as May gets into P10 ahead of him, Leonov. But Leonov's going to come back. No, he can't do anything. But yeah, so I wonder if Watson's thinking, let's not lose time at this stage of the race. We're only just about getting to halfway through. Let's follow Harvey in the DRS. Let's not lose any time. Let's close back up to Singh. Almost NASCAR style, with the drafting system that they have in that. You want to catch the group ahead of you. So, yeah, maybe a bit of heads up thinking as Lalu already comes back into the pits. That's 15 laps? 16 laps on the set of yellows. He's going to be struggling to get to the end of the race. Maybe even a 3-stop for Royal Blue Racing and Jukka-Pekka Lalu. Interesting, because he's usually one of the better guys on the tyres.
Yeah, and I think it's all just that initial decision to try and undercut everyone, assuming he hadn't just cooked those first set of tyres, which is also a possibility. But it looked strategic to me, and it was a strategy mishap. It was not the right play at the time for Jukka-Pekka Lalu, who now comes back out on soft tyres, so definitely committing to a 3-stop, you'd have to imagine, with that Redwood set of tyres. That will not make it to the end of this race. And he comes out down in 17th. Dower Tapper up ahead of him, also on soft tyres, but Lalu's will be a fair whack, fresher compared to both Tapper and Hume ahead.
Well, if you remember, we were watching Lalu trying to get past Singh early on, and he was lighting up the rear tyres out the hairpin, so I wonder whether that contributed to the decisions a bit so early, but it's obviously not paid off. Still expecting a 2-stop for most of the guys. Whether any of them do think a 3-stop is worth it, I'm not so sure. The only thing I would say is it's quite a short pit lane, there's quite a short pit lane time here compared to some of the other races on the calendar. So if you want to do a 3-stop, it's not going to be as disadvantageous as, say, Spa, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and Jukka-Pekka Lalu sort of underlining that by setting a purple middle sector. Last time anyone did that, it was Dylan Platt, so he's got to be careful. I have had word that Dylan Platt actually retired due to a wheel failure rather than any error on the driver's part, so that's a big shame for Platt, who was actually having a pretty promising performance here, driving for TR Blue Boss here today. Meanwhile,
through into P2.
Williams has been able to get past Michael Ayers there into the hairpin, Ayers down into third. And that's just a lapped car behind them, one of the Cosmo Powerworks there. But I'm not sure if that had any part to play in the fact that they got past. Meanwhile, further behind, the battle has been rejoined between Thomas Harvey and Amari Watson. The two Englishmen fighting it out through turn 7. But Watson has the line. He has track position for now. And Harvey will have to cede 6th position once again.
I told you they weren't fighting and playing a long game, didn't I? No, that's gone straight out the window. As Rainey goes side by side with Paolini as well. There was close because Rainey got a little bit out of shape. But he stays in P12, or actually might have gone back a position. So Paolini into P11, Rainey 12, and Hammond right on the back with a bit of an improved race actually for Frank, P13.
Yeah, it's not been too bad of a race for Frank Hamming at this stage. Some points would definitely be welcome for the Dutchman. Only managed 6 so far this season, so another point scoring finish would do the world of good for him and his confidence, you'd have to imagine. It would help out HM Engineering as well, who currently only sit 9th in the constructor standings, but we'll talk about those later, because here is Michael Ayers once again. He was only passed a lap ago by Matthew Williams, and now he's sending it straight back in towards turn 6, and he's got the move done nice and easily. It seems like it's so hard for drivers to try and mount a defense through turn 6 with the power of the DRS here, but they can maybe try and get it back into turn 8, which is what we're seeing right now between Williams and Ayers. Williams going for the switchback, but once again, there's just not enough of a traction zone on the exit before the next corner for that switchback to really be paying off. All this battling, meanwhile, is helping out Kintai no end.
Yeah, and it looked as if he just got a little bit trigger happy on the throttle as well, had a bit of a shake, and that's what's cost him actually all the way through that section. But yeah, this is helping Kintai, as you said. 2.7 seconds already, the gap. It's all looking rosy up front for Alessandro Kintai.
Yeah, his last lap wasn't anything special, but Michael Ayres and Matthew Williams both had pretty shocking last laps, and they're going to have pretty shocking this laps as well with the battling they've been doing. Jukka-Pekka Laulu, currently the fastest car out on circuit, as you would expect on those fresh, soft tyres. He's the first driver to dip into the 114s, and he's done a 114.766 last time around. So he is making those soft tyres work for him, but now he's getting into the dirty air of Douwe Tapper, who he needs to get past pretty quick. The good news for him is that Douwe Tapper isn't close enough to Hygo Poom right now to get DRS.
The problem Matthew Williams has had, talking about getting past people quickly, is he made the move that he needed to make. He was only about 1.2, 1.3 behind Kintai at the time. Problem is now that he's had 2 battles effectively, that's almost cost both of these guys a race, unless something disastrous happens to Kintai in terms of tyre drop-off. And Williams hasn't got any further up the road either. Even if he'd lost a second but got past Ayres and then had the clean air to attack, it still wouldn't have been too disastrous. But now he's just back where he started but further behind. It hasn't worked for him. So these guys might need to just start working together, like we said, in NASCAR style, work together, close back into Kintai. Maybe even in the DRS train, just letting each other go past every lap.
And it's been a rough run of races recently for Alessandro Kintai. Second in the last race, of course, in that incredibly close finish with Michael Ayres. But before that, 2 DNFs, and those 2 DNFs those races were both won by Matthew Williams. Kintai is still the closest driver to Matthew Williams in the drivers' standings. But those 2 DNFs, while Williams was able to pick up full honours on both occasions, really put a massive dent in his championship charge. The difference between the two of them, 66 points right now. So Kintai needs to be having this kind of race week in, week out for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and the infuriating thing for Kintai was that his races were over before turn 1 in both of them, as Thomas Harvey getting the slipstream back past Amari Watson on the inside, as Watson got any defence down into turn 7 and 8. No, he won't, because he is completely been shut off by the TR Blue Boss. So really good textbook overtake from Thomas Harvey. He's back up into P6. The problem is they're now 3.5 off the back of Sandeep Singh, who's up in 5th.
Yeah, I don't think this is really helping either driver, but it seems like it's kind of a matter of honour at the moment. They're defending their honour. They're trying to say, you didn't pass me, I was just letting you pass. I can pass you anytime I want. I promise, look, watch me do it now. And it's just going to go back and forth between those two. Having said that, Thomas Harvey has done a good job of gapping Amari Watson over the second sector of this lap. Further back, here's some battling between Matthias Dabrowski and Ruven Macheda in the Revo there. Macheda 10.6 seconds behind Douwe Tapper, up ahead in 17th. So these guys, the 2 PLS cars stuck behind Macheda at the moment, they're losing out heavily when they should be going very fast, particularly Dabrowski on those fresh soft tyres. He's just stuck behind the mediums of Macheda for now, and they're quickly losing any sort of grip they had on any points in this race.
What's really impressing me about Macheda at the moment, like we said, first race in the series all season, his best lap time is only around 4/10 faster than the lap times he's putting in at the moment. And he started on the soft, so he's clearly got a nice consistent rhythm going in that Revo car, although he's got the 2 PLSs hunting him down like he is fresh caught dinner.
Indeed, and yeah, he'll be hoping that he can stop feeling like that sooner rather than later. Jukka-Pekka Laulu has been able to get past Douwe Tapper now, and here is Dabrowski. This time, the move should be done on Ruven Macheda. Macheda is still in there with a chance, and we'll see, can the PLS cars work together? It doesn't look like Zubinski's going to be close enough to also take advantage of the fact that Dabrowski's been able to get past Macheda. Macheda does think about it on the inside into 8. That will leave him a little bit vulnerable on the exit, but not vulnerable enough. So Zubinski and Dabrowski currently sandwiching Macheda in their PLS cars.
Yeah, and talking about getting past, Jack Mayer's just got past Vodka Herkstra at P8 on the road on the soft tyres now after starting on the mediums. Let's see what he does in his next pit stop. Will he go on to reds again? And then he's really looking strong. P8 at the moment for Jack Mayer, up plenty of positions from his qualifying spot and looking so much better for Stacks now that he's up in the top 8.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jack Mayer, of course, did his job on strategy. He's done his job, more than done his job in the race as well. Very, very impressive drive. It's qualifying once again that has been the downfall for Jack Mayer here, because this sort of pace that he's showing right here, this is podium sort of pace that he could be having in this race if he didn't have to start outside the top 10. Of course, he wouldn't be on this strategy if he hadn't started outside the top 10, so maybe the strategy is working a little bit better for him. But nevertheless, he's far, far ahead of anyone else who's on the same strategy right now. Hygo Poom is the next driver on these soft tyres. He's down in 14th right now, with Jukka-Pekka Lalu all over his case. Lalu's also on soft tyres, but he's already pitted twice, and so now has Matthew Williams.
Yeah, so that suggests to me that that's going to be a yellow tyre going on with 20 laps left.
We'll see then on the pit exit here. It does look like the yellow tyres. Yep, mediums then for Matthew Williams. He'll come out just behind Jack Mayer, but ahead of Vodka Hoekstra. Perfectly into that little gap, and Mayer will not hold him up 1 second. So, yeah, pretty good place for him to come back out onto the circuit there. Nicely judged.
So effectively, a DRS thing shot straight out the pits on his outlap. That'll help try and get past Michael Ayres, and that might be the gap that they were trying to find for him. Because it means that if Ayres comes out, it will be right on the tail of Jack Mayer at the moment. So, yeah, really interesting strategy play to go on to those yellow mediums when you know he probably could have gone a few laps more, maybe 1 or 2 laps more on the tyres he had, and try and finish the race on the red softs as Lalu goes up the inside of Hygo Poom, both on those red tyres. He's got the inside now in fast right-hand kink. Could try and swap over to the inside. Can he get the move done? No, he can't, and his race is really being compromised now, because as everyone else pits, he's going to have to pit for a third time, so he is P14 on merit at the moment.
Yeah, and this is something, his race has been compromised twice over. It happened after the first pit stop. It's happening again on the second pit stop. He's only passed 1 car since he came back out onto these soft tyres. He set the fastest lap of the race. Now he's almost 2 full seconds slower than that fastest lap, which he only set a few laps ago. Jukka-Pekka Lalu is going to be just gutted with how this race has gone so far. His teammate Dino Paolini is now in the pit lane as well. Another early pit stop from the other Royal Blue Racing car. We'll see where the German can filter out. He was going from mediums maybe onto softs or maybe onto another set of mediums here. Meanwhile, here's the slingshot that you were mentioning. Matthew Williams able to get past Jack Mayer with no trouble whatsoever, and Mayer has had a great supportive drive so far, helping out Matthew Williams at every turn. And it's interesting because I believe in qualifying, I can't remember if you actually got to make the point or if you got cut off by something, but I seem to remember you talking about the 2 Pescaros being up there with Mayer being all the way down towards P14. And sort of the suggestion there would be that, well, it's great because Sandeep Singh can help out Alessandro Quintana in the battle at the front, whereas Mayer's not going to be able to. But as it happens, Singh hasn't really been able to get close enough to the podium runners to do anything to help out Quintana. And Mayer, on the contra strategy, has been able to actually help out Williams much more than we might have expected.
It's all well and good, but then you've got Singh picking up the points that is so crucial for the championship. So it works both ways. Yeah, okay, Singh hasn't actually done anything to directly hold up either of the stats, as we've got Hamin and Adam Rainey side by side into the final corner. So that's an interesting one. Clearly some side-by-side action all the way through the final sector for that to happen. But yeah, so you've got Singh picking up the points, Hoekstra pits as well from the top 10. What's interesting to see is that actually it took a lap for Williams to get onto the back of Mayer, having pitted. So whether that has held him up a little bit on the undercut. The thing is that we're now getting into the realms of Quintana and Ayres pitting and going onto those red soft tyres. So, you know, is that going to be a disadvantage or an advantage? We'll find out. Let's see what the tyre deg's like.
Jukka-Pekka Lalu has found some clearer running now, with a couple of drivers having pitted, the likes of Hygo Poom getting out of his way, and now the Finn has been able to dispatch Jannis Volborn, who's on older medium tyres, for 11th place. Now he has about a second of clean air to work with to close up to Frank Hamming and Adam Rainey, another dueling pair, and then 12.5 seconds ahead of them. So if he can make it past those guys, he can start to really show his pace once more.
Yeah, and he needs to be honest. He needs to get past these guys because, like I said, this is all for position now that he's gone on to a 3-stop. So, you know, still plenty of points that he can pick up, but he needs to make these moves probably before the pit stop, because then there'll be much more equilibrium on the tyre deg between the spread of cars.
Michael Ayres still hasn't pitted. He hasn't responded to the fact that Matthew Williams pitted a few laps ago. content to let the stacks get an undercut on him. And you've got to assume with the field as sort of separated out as it currently is, it is going to be an undercut, as we now see Williams able to get past Omari Watson, who is, of course, Michael Ayres' teammate. So Watson not able to hold up Williams as well as 86E Racing might have liked for Michael Ayres' sake. And further back, there's Frank Hamming getting past another car there. That's Adam Rainey that he's battling with. And this battling is not good news for Jukka-Pekka Laulu because he wants to just be able to get clean through these guys. But if they're battling with one another, they're not going to be leaving enough space for a third car, you'd have to imagine. So Lalu's going to have to pick his way through quite carefully between these two cars.
Can tie into the pits, and I imagine he'll go on to softs and airs also, because Dabrowski's just put a set of softs on down the back and gone fastest in the middle sector on his outlap. So really strong pace on those soft tyres. Can tie in onto softs. Michael Ayres in onto softs. I don't know whether Matthew Williams is going to have the speed to do anything on those yellow medium tyres.
So Williams is out ahead of Ayres. There you see Williams. There you can see Ayres just in the background. But it's not a huge gap. It's roughly 2 seconds between these two cars right now. And with Ayres on fresher, softer tyres to the end of this race, you've got to imagine that Matthew Williams is going to be sweating over that P2 right now.
Yeah, I mean, look, Jukka-Pekka Laulu's faster than Williams. Hoekstra's faster than Williams, obviously on the soft tyres. So, you know, Williams has just done his best lap of the race, and he's still slower than those guys who are stuck in midfield battles. What's he going to be able to do when you see Kintai and Ayres behind on these softer tyres? Big trouble station. The only problem is for the other two is that obviously Matthew Williams has got track position, and if he does get overtaken, might be able to hang in well enough for DRS to try and fight back. Let's see what happens. Kintai all over the back again.
19th place man Matthias Dabrowski has just set the fastest lap of this race on not even that fresh soft tyres. So I think that tells us all we need to know. Actually, no, I think he has just pitted again for a new set, of fresh soft tyres. But that tells us all we need to know about how effective these soft tyres are going to be right now and how much that's going to be hurting Williams here in this potential battling. Because there you see Kintai that he's with, and then Ayres just down the road. Kintai losing that first position, but I'm sure he's going to get it back in just a moment with the tyre differential. Kiersmacher, Singh, Harvey and Mayer have all pitted as well, probably for the final time this race.
Yeah, and this should be pretty easy. He's gone down the outside, so Williams defensive, and Kintai knows he's got the grip, surely, so he's going to swing out and try and get the... Oh, he's almost lost it actually under power. So that's cost him vital speed down into the kink. Has he got the grip to go down the inside? He should do. Williams going to cover him off. Ooh. Nice and close and good clean racing from the front too. Kintai really cost himself by putting the power down too early, too aggressively.
Yeah, and that's determined racing there from Matthew Williams. He was not giving any quarter on the apex of turn 8. You can see him all over the road through turn 12 as well, taking the riskiest line possible. Meanwhile, further behind is Jukka-Pekka Laulu on these soft tyres, which are quickly going to look rather second-hand compared to everyone else now. Thomas Harvey has just pitted for another set of softs. So Laulu, with a huge undercut, has only managed to get past Omari Watson, has not been able to get past Harvey or Singh, and he's going to have to pit again.
Now, very interesting to point out, Matthew Williams, despite not having DRS, did the fastest first sector of the race on the last lap. The problem is that him fighting with Kintai gave Michael Ayres 0.8 of a second. That's crucial. Ayres is going to come in. Maybe Williams was actually better letting Kintai go and settling for P2 maybe. Because every time they battle, that's bringing Ayres in, and he's going to be completely defenseless against Ayres as well. Kintai should have had the move done last lap. He's going to try and do exactly the same thing. This time, much better on the throttle, should get a much better run into the kink. Although, to be fair, Williams has cut him off nicely again.
Yeah, I think Williams going to parked it on the apex of turn 6 in just the right moment. He's gone wide, though, and that's going to give the opportunity, but Kintai, not really possible to run a switchback through turn 10, but maybe it is. Very, very tough ask to try and go side by side through 12, and Kintai backs out of it. But what I was going to say was that Williams going to park the car on the apex of turn 6 last time around. That delayed Kintai. He knew that Kintai was going to go for the switchback, blocked him off. That meant Kintai couldn't get onto the throttle when he wanted to, and delayed his exit through the traction zone. And that is what meant that Kintai wouldn't be alongside enough to be able to go up the inside of turn 8 a couple of corners later on Matthew Williams. So it's all about these tiny movements they're making in the braking zone, on the apex of the corners, and that could affect them for several corners to follow.
Yeah, he's shown his hand now, hasn't he, Alessandro? So now he's got to start coming creative, maybe try and throw a dummy somewhere. Matthew Williams actually got a little bit more of a gap this time down the straight. And this is what we were saying earlier, Kintai down the inside this time, so a bit later on the brakes, and he's actually forced Matthew Williams to go slightly wider. Still, the stack stays ahead, and this is hurting Kintai's tyres all the way through.
He's still going to be going for it. Look at that in the braking zone. He thought about trying to send the dummy, but it wasn't late enough. Williams wise to it. This is fantastic defensive driving from Matthew Williams. He is at a significant deficit in terms of the tyre situation compared to Kintai right now. And Kintai has without a doubt been the fastest car here today. But Matthew Williams just able to keep him just about behind with fantastic battling between the two of them. Every lap round, Williams is going to be looking at that lap counter, and every time he's going to go, oh, surely it's been a couple more laps than that, because he is going to be under so much pressure to the end of this race.
Yeah, and like I said, we started showing his hand. Now he ducked to the inside last time, so at least he's offered something different. Williams left the door open and almost paid the price for it. The problem is as we said, Kintai's tyres will now be starting to scream, overheating in turbulent air, going offline, picking up a little bit of pickup off the line, and Ayres is just sitting waiting for something to happen. Williams goes defensive again. Kintai to the outside, they have to try to switch back, although Williams has parked it nicely.
Yeah, once again, just blocking off any potential cutback there. Maybe if you're Kintai, you've got to start thinking about trying to go all the way around the outside. He's going to look for the outside line. But once again, Williams is braking so late, but he brakes too late this time. And the door is wide open for Alessio Kintai to make his way up into first position once again. He will feel that position is rightfully his. Williams did a fantastic job of defending it, but he couldn't hold on long enough.
That's what happens when you drive in your mirrors. You miss your braking point by what, 5-10 meters? That's enough to push you wide. He didn't go off the track, but it was enough to let Kintai back down the inside, and that is perfect car placement. Kintai forced the mistake. Now Williams has got to make sure that he's back on top of his defensive game, because Michael Ayres is going to try and steam through like a locomotive engine with the DRS, with the soft tyres.
Yeah, and you know, Williams has been braking so late into that corner all race long that I just kind of had faith in it. I thought, you know what, this looks so late, but every time I've thought he looks like he's going to go off-road, he's kept it together. This time, though, it was just biting off a little bit more than even he could chew, and now he's under a lot of pressure. There's Michael Ayres up the inside. Williams not going defensive like he did against Kintai, actually sending a dummy of his own up the inside. That's the second time that he's gone for a late dive bomb on Ayres into that corner so far this race, and Ayres is wise to it, holding him behind now. So Ayres up in the second. Williams isn't done yet, but he's going to have to really brake late. But look, he does it again, but he cannot keep it with the line on the exit of the corner. He cannot stay alongside, and Michael Ayres is into second once more. It's Kintai from Ayres from Williams.
Yeah, Ayres just had so much more grip on exit out the hairpin, because actually Williams had managed to stick his nose in front by the time they got to the exit. Just didn't have the grip underneath him on those yellow medium tyres to get off the corner. Poom up into P11 past Leonov, so a nice race from Hygo Poom, where Leonov's just fought back, so they're absolutely side by side as they come into the same battle zone as we've seen up front. Poom back down the inside, should get that done, although Leonov's carried beautiful mid-corner speed around the outside, should keep it. Brilliant side-by-side racing from these two guys, nice and clean. They're still going to be side-by-side into stadium section. Leonov stays ahead in P11.
These two drivers are both on medium tyres, and look at all those soft tyre runners behind them. If I'm them, I'm not trying to battle one another, because look, there are so many sharks in this water right now. If they start to brawl in the depths and start to draw blood between one another, all the rest of them are going to be smelling it immediately and lapping it up and getting straight past. Meanwhile, here's Sandeep Singh looking to make a move on Matteo Kiersmakers, who's been so comfortably fourth all race long. Oh, and Singh loses it. He just about holds on to the car, and that's going to give an opportunity for Thomas Harvey, who's still in the area. Somehow Kiersmakers had to get out of it so much that Sandeep Singh, despite almost losing the car entirely, still holds on to fourth position. Kiersmakers got too hot on the brakes, almost went into the rear end of the Pescara, and that's going to allow the TR Blue Voss of Harvey up ahead of Kiersmakers as well. The Belgian has been in control of fourth place this whole race, and now he doesn't even have fifth.
It feels like not that long ago that Thomas Harvey was battling Amari Watson and letting Sandeep Singh get through for a second. Oh, engine's gone. Engine's gone. I think that was Adam Rainey.
It's rainy in there. You see the fire coming out of that V12 Crossfire engine. Adam Rainey pulling off and into the barrier there. Yellow's in sector 2, and that's one fewer car that's going to eat up Poom and Leonov in the coming laps.
Yeah, just going back quickly to Thomas Harvey. He's found pace from nowhere. He's only being beaten in lap time wise by race leader Alessandro Quintana at the moment. So Thomas Harvey really pulling out all the stops in this final stint. Like I said, with Amari Watson, all of a sudden Amari Watson is what? About 6-7 seconds down on Thomas Harvey in this race, and Harvey's got past Keersmakers, who, like we said, was so comfortable in P4, all over the back of Sandeep Singh, who obviously hasn't done his tyres any good with that slide to the hairpin. And Thomas Harvey's going to be up into P4 before you know it, surely.
Yeah, this is the second podium right here. We have the front three up ahead, Kintai, Ayres and Williams. And then a big gap, 13.5 seconds, 14.5 seconds down to Singh, Harvey and Keersmakers, who themselves have a bit of a gap over the rest of the field. These are comfortably the second podium of this race. The 4th, 5th and 6th fastest cars here today. Maybe Jukka-Pekka Laulu would be in with a shouter with that as well, but his strategy has really hindered him. Here are Leonov and that's going to be Poom battling once again, and Poom reclaiming his grip on 11th position. Leonov trying to get the switch back there, but couldn't quite manage it. And that's Jukka-Pekka Laulu, the man we were just talking about, right there, ready to snap up any mistake that Ivan Leonov might make.
Stunning racing from the pair of them again, nice and clean, really close battle for P11 and P12. Is racing all the way through the field. It's absolutely fantastic, and they are at the top of their game.
So Kintai leading by 1.5 seconds to Michael Ayres, then Matthew Williams in third, a further 1.5 seconds behind. Look at Hygo Poom. He's gained 10 positions over the course of this race. The Estonian is having one of his best races of the season, if not his best race of this entire season. 15 points on the season so far, and he's on track to score a fair few more with this 11th place he's currently running in. Trouble is, Lalu, Hamming, Tapper all represent threats to him and his grip on that position. So does Ivan Leonov, as we've seen time and time again, those two battling throughout the circuit. Oh, Leonov too late. Too late this time from Ivan Leonov, but they're still going to be side by side. I don't think Hygo Poom's going to be very happy with that one in that TTF racing car. He tries to brave it around the outside of 7 to claim the inside of 8, and he can do so. Leonov losing the car on the exit, and he's lost it completely. Into the grass he goes. He loses out to Lalu, Hamming, Tapper, and Volborn. They're all able to careen past Leonov, and with that, Leonov goes from 12th to out of the points.
So easy when you make a mistake at the corner before your blood pressure rises, you get on the gas a little bit too early, and then the mistake comes. To be fair to Ivan, into the hairpin, the door was open. He did come from a long way back, but Hygo left the door open and then cut across. Obviously didn't see him because Leonov had come from so far back. But the move was there to be made, so no problem with that from him.
And now Hygo Poom. It's a bit of a sort of curse in disguise there for Hygo Poom, because now he has Lalu, Hamming, Tapper all chomping at the bit to get past him. They're soft tyres, he's on mediums, and he doesn't have that buffer of another car. Either he has a car behind him, which means that they can't overtake him, or he has DRS on the car ahead. Now, with the demise of Ivan Leonov, he doesn't have any of those safety barriers anymore, and as you can see, it is harming him, because here comes Jukka-Pekka Laulu. They're getting a bit tied together on the exit of the corner there, but they will be able to get the traction down without any big issue between the two of them. Lalu with the inside, that'll be the outside then for turn 8. In general, the inside has been the line to have throughout this race in turn 8, but Lalu has so much better grip that he can make that move stick. Into 11th he goes. That's about all he's going to be able to claim in this race. 10 seconds now to his teammate Dino Paolini in 10th.
Yeah, so Mario Watson's just done a personal best in P7. That's helped to keep Jack Mayer behind. So P7, P8 battle still nice and close with Hoekstra in P9 as well. Back up front, Michael Ayres is actually 3/10 faster in the last lap than Alessandro Quintana, and back into DRS range. So the battle for the race victory is not over yet. Still got 6 laps to go at the end of this one. And yeah, that gap is right down as we get yellows in sector 2.
Fascinating to see, and I wonder if that's because Kintai had spent so much time battling with Williams at the beginning of that soft tyre stint. 6 laps left to go in this race, 6.5, and Ayres is right there with Alessandro Kintai. I thought the race was going to be cut and dry when Kintai got past Williams, but nothing of the sort. Ayres wants another grandstand finish. Meanwhile, here's Hygo Poom battling once again. He's going to wish that he could just have a lap alone, and oh, he pushes Hamming wide there. Hamming won't be too pleased with that one, and Douwe Tapper is able to take advantage of the disappointed Dutchman.
A little bit naughty, but it was always going to happen. You see it time and time again at the hairpin. If the outside, Tapper does take advantage then. But yeah, only half a second, less than half a second up the front. And Matthew Williams obviously starting to drop off. Interestingly, actually, Matthew Williams was 1.2 seconds slower than Sandeep Singh on the last lap. Let's see if that gap closes anymore. 9.5 seconds between the two should be fine for P3, but that will start to get a little bit dicey towards the end of the race.
Yeah, Singh has actually been able to deal with the threat of Harvey pretty handedly as well. It's now about 2 seconds between those two, give or take a few tenths here and there. Kiersmakers is right back on the rear end of Harvey as well, so that battle may well continue to the end of this race. Then you have Watson, Mayer, and Hoekstra all in close step with one another. Mayer would love to claim at least one more position come the end of this race, because he's had a fantastic comeback drive from the poor qualifying. Dawa Tapper here in 13th, and he wants to get past Haigo Poom. He's the latest driver to have a crack at passing the Estonian. Once again, Poom is going to use all the road on the exit, and actually Tapper wasn't alongside to justify any spaces. He had that major moment there in the traction zone, so he will fail on this occasion to get past the Estonian, but he has a few more laps to try his luck.
Yeah, so that train's starting to dissipate as people get past Haigo Poom. Just looking back through, so actually quite a lot of the guys in the top. Oh, here's Michael Ayres actually going to the outside this lead. So that's come from nowhere. He's really found a bit of pace over the last side. Kintai's going to try and cut him off. So close to contact out of the hairpin. Now Ayres is, and that's because Kintai knows that Ayres got the inside line up into the braking zone. Might get the move done. It's so tight, he's come off a little bit there, Kintai. So nice defensive driving, but that's as close as you want it to be. He'll have another go next time round.
There isn't so long left in the race, but Michael Ayres looks like he has enough time to maybe claim the lead of this race. He's seen a mistake there from Alessandro Kintai. He knows that Kintai is struggling at this stage of the race. A sign of weakness is all you need when you're the chasing car. He is the hunter right now, Kintai the prey, and he has to try and make sure that he can nurse that Pescara's tyres all the way to the finish line in decent nick, because right now they are really crying enough on that car, and it's allowing Michael Ayres to maybe try and claim his second race win on the bounce.
Both of them a little out of shape as we were on board with Michael Ayres to turn on. Both of them running wide, a little bit squirrely. Now the DRS is going to come open, and look how defensive straight away Alessandro Kintai goes to try and break the toe. Let's see how close this DRS gets us down into the braking zone for the hairpin.
It's like he's on a rope and he's lassoed him. He's just reeling him in right now, but he's not close enough on this occasion in the braking zone. So Kintai may be just about getting the measure of Ayres on this lap. There's still a few more chances, but that will be reassuring for Kintai. He knows that it's not guaranteed that he's going to be having to defend for his life every single lap. He can be able to build enough of a gap to Ayres. They still have relatively similar tyres, just Kintai seemed to use his a little bit more at the beginning of the stint, so that is why Ayres seems to have this advantage. Either that, or he's just found something within himself as a driver coming towards the end of this race. These guys are now in the mid-15s. They are not anything like the fastest cars out on the circuit at the moment. They're faster than Matthew Williams, but Singh, Harvey, Kiersmakers, Watson, Mayer, Hoekstra, and Jukka-Pekka Laulu are all faster than these guys at the moment. Even Dino Paolini on the medium tyres in 10th, he's faster than these guys at the moment. And of course, they have been battling as well, which is dragging their lap times down a bit. Yeah,
it looked like the gap was a little bit bigger going across the line this time round. So let's see if Michael Ayres is close enough through the DRS as Haigo Poom picks up a penalty, so that might be tracking limits. He's down to 15th now anyway, with Tapper and Volbon and Hammond all through. Ayres then, will he make the move down the inside? No, he won't, still not close enough.
Not close enough, Kintai. Every time that happens, he's just going to be wiping his brow a little bit more. It's just a couple more attempts. 3 more attempts now in this race for Ayres to try and get past Williams into turn 6. In fact, 2 more attempts now in this race, because of course the one on lap 53 has already occurred. So he's got lap 54 and lap 55 to try and get past, unless he wants to do it in the second half of this lap. But that's going to take some hell of a move if he wants to do that. Turn 6 is the obvious opportunity, at least to begin the overtaking move. Sometimes it can be extended down towards turn 8 and even turn 9. But Ayres is running out of chances. He careened right up to the rear wing of Alessandro Kintai. It seemed like Kintai was going to be hapless in defense, but after that first moment where Ayres got alongside, he hasn't been able to do so again.
Yeah, both of them hitting the curb on the inside of turn one again, forcing them a little bit wide. But what I'm interested is why Ayres didn't just send it down the inside and take a high ground line. I thought he was close enough just to take the corner. He couldn't, and now he's, 7/10 down. This is further back than he has been on the previous 2 laps. He won't be close enough this time. He needs to set it up for a final lap assault.
As his ship sailed, it's going to have to be the final lap, as you mentioned. It's going to have to be a grandstand finish. Yellow's in sector 2, not exactly sure who that's
Tapper went round, he's dropped to P16.
Do a tapper now, down outside the points then, and that's going to bring Ivan Leonov back into the bottom point scoring position. He's right there with Hygo Poom again, and Poom has that penalty as well. Let's not forget about that. Seems like there's further battling down over 19th and 20th. That's Jones and Macheda, 2 new boys in the drive today. But out at the front, this is what we really care about. Alessandro Quintai has half a second in the bag to Michael Ayres. And Matthew Williams has dropped off at a rate of knots. He's now 10 seconds behind this leading pair. These 2 are the class of the field here today. And which one of them will it be that will take the win?
At the moment, you've got to put all your money on Alessandro Quintai. Exactly the same situation for Watson and Mayer at the back in P7 and P8, sorry. Mayer wasn't able to get through on Watson at the first time of asking, and he just wasn't able to make a move. Let's see how close it is out of this turn 2 and turn 3 complex for Michael Ayres. Is he close enough to get up to Alessandro Quintai's rear wing? He's actually closer this lap than he was. He's got a chance.
Closer than the last, but still not that close. It's going to have to be a bit of a dive bomb from Michael Ayres into the braking zone here, but he might just feel that he has to do that, but he's not close enough. He cannot justify the decision to send it up the inside. He knows that it would have just been contact, and with that, it seems like Alessandro Quintai might just have done enough. He still has to keep his car together, the Pescara. He's got to keep it together on the remainder of this lap. Ayres is still there buzzing in his rearview mirror. It's not over for Quintai just yet. He's got to be careful through turn 12 here. We've seen him in the gravel here a couple laps ago, but this time he gives it plenty of margin. You can see Ayres using so much more road through there as he's taking more risks because he has to at this point of the race. But into the final couple of corners, the opportunities have all come and they have all gone for Michael Ayres. Alessandro Quintai sees off the challenge of Ayres and Williams and takes his first race win for a fair few rounds in this season. And boy, did he need that.
What is it with those 2 and final lap battles in the last few races? Superb. Williams cross the line, then P3. Singer will come home P4. Harvey Kiersmak is close in the end. And then Watson and Mayer the next across the line.
Yeah, and Mayer not able to get Watson by the end. Vopka Hoekstra follows him through. And then a big gap down to 10th position. That's Dino Paolini, who's on an absolute island right now. His teammate Jukka-Pekka Laulu is closest behind him. That's 7.2 seconds there. So Dino Paolini will claim 10th place. He'll be relatively happy with that. That's a solid points finish for him. Jukka-Pekka Laulu just behind will not be too happy with his P11 because he had a lot of pace here today, but the strategy just absolutely did not work out for him. Frank Hamming can be pretty pleased with P12. Volborn P13. He started down in 19th, I believe, so that's a decent recovery from him. Ivan Leonov in 14th. And Hygo Poom, who looked like he was going to have one of his best races of the season, finishes down in 20th as a result of the penalties.
Yeah, so that puts Pascal Polens, who started right at the back, into the final points paying position. So double points for Razor despite a poor qualifying. So there is the winner, Alessandro Quintai, and what a winner he was as well. Perfect pace.
Yeah, and big race for Pescara with him taking first and Sandeep Singh claiming 4th position as well. Here we see then the confirmed final order. It's Alessandro Quintai who took his 2nd win of the season. Michael Ayres denied his 3rd. He'll have to stick with P2 in this race. Matthew Williams in 3rd position himself with Sandeep Singh 4th. Thomas Harvey was able to see off the challenge of Kiersmakers late in the race. He will claim 5th with Kiersmakers 6th. Watson did the same with Jack Mayer just behind him, 7th and 8th for those 2. Vopka Hoekstra started outside the top 10, finished in P9. Dino Paolini managing P10. Jukka-Pekka Laulu there with the 3-stop strategy in 11th. Frank Hamming in 12th, Yanis Volborn 13th, Ivan Leonov managing 14th after he had an issue with a few laps left to go. Pascal Polens from the back of the grid, as you mentioned, claiming 1 final point for Razor. Both cars in the points for them, and satisfyingly enough, every single car who finished inside the top 15, they were the only cars that remained unlapped, with the exception of Hygo Poom, who had that penalty, of course. And then you have Tapas, Sean Jones, Reuven Macheda, Philip Koenig, and then Hygo Poom. And then I believe all the rest of these drivers did not finish in this race. Mateusz Dabrowski actually showed some great pace in the middle stages of the race towards the end on fresh soft tyres, but in the end could not make it to the checkered flag, nor could his teammate Zubinski. Adam Rainey had a very, very promising debut in this season as well, but he DNFs with an engine blow-up. James Lambert, Dylan Platt, Giuseppe Saracino, and Vitale Rossetti all also failing to make the checkered flag. There you see some donuts. I think that's Michael Ayres there, and you're going to be seeing the donuts from Kid Tai as well. So they're having a good time celebrating their good results in this race. And congratulations once again then to Alessandro Quintai. I believe we're going to be able to bring you some interviews in a few moments here. I think quickly we might be going to a little break before we do. And we'll get those guys in the interview box as quickly as we possibly can. And we'll be back in a few minutes' time.
You know what? We've got Michael waiting, I think, so we'll bring in P2 Man, and he's always game for an interview, to be fair.
Okay.
So I will drag Michael in, and Jacob, take it away.
All right. Hello, Michael Ayres. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. So, eventful race from your perspective, I'm sure. How was the whole race from your perspective, first of all?
So the start, I guess, wasn't the greatest. Williams jumped me right off the line before even turn one, which was quite surprising. But luckily, I guess I kind of had the lower wings to repass him. And then, strategy again on point. So big props to Liam, who engineers me and Omari. He gets everything spot on so far this season, and he hasn't put a step wrong yet.
And then, of course, we saw a grandstand finish on the last lap between yourself and Alessandro Quintai for the second race in a row. This time, though, it was Quintai that came out on top. Did you think you could have had him? There was a couple of moments where we thought maybe you could have gone for a dive bomb with maybe 3 laps left to go, but you didn't do it. And then you just couldn't get close enough on the last couple of laps. Were there any moments that you'd love to redo and that could have made all the difference there?
I think I probably should have been a little bit more aggressive. I think I had the tyres, especially when Quintai and Williams were battling, when Williams was on mediums. He held up Quintai a lot, and I felt like I had the tyre advantage, and I maybe wanted to kind of save that until the last 5 laps. And I really wanted to kind of go for an attack at the end, but I think the tyre went for 2 laps to go, and I just slowly couldn't reel him in on the straight.
Any further questions from yourself, Ewan?
Yeah, can you give us a best 2 out of 3 in France between you and Alessandro, please, Michael?
So hopefully it'll be me out on top, but you never know. Maybe Williams next time.
Well, congratulations once again on a very good result there in P2. Not the win that you might have wanted, but still a lot of very, very good points and a fantastic race as well. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Now, I'll tell you what we've got, right? We haven't got Alessandro or Matthew, but we've got their teammates. So I'll tell you what, we'll drag Jack Mayer in from Stacked to have a chat with. There you go. Hi, right. Jack. How you doing? Good day, actually, in the end, Jack. P8 after starting P14, but obviously decent points as well for Stacks, both of you in the top 10.
Yeah, it was a good day. I think the whole season, on my end, at least in Stacks, has been very up and down. Matthew's always had the pace for the podium, and we've both been working together throughout the season on setups, strategy and whatnot. But my end of the race has never seemed to be as good as it was last year, and I think majority of that is down to me, and a lot of it as well is just I can't get the car to work how I want it. The last few races have been better, and today was probably the best the car's felt, and I have to put a lot of the thanks to that to Tom Ely, who's been doing a lot of setup work in the last few days with me. We kind of swapped the setup around and turned it on its head, and the pace isn't still back from last year, but the confidence was there, and we made the alternate strategy work, which I don't think I've been able to do this year. So yeah, compared to other races, I think today was the best yet for me.
And in the race itself, of course, you mentioned that alternate strategy. That let you come into play a little bit with your teammates' race as well. We did notice that the lap after you managed to get all those front 3 concertinas up after their first pit stops, that's when you came into the pits. Was there a lot of teamwork going on, a lot of discussion between yourself and Matthew?
I think the best way to put that is as a happy accident. There was no like strategy to involve. There was no foul play or anything. It was just with me being on the alternate strategy and I wanted to stay out. We would have pitted a few laps earlier, but we saw the people who we were racing were held up behind slower traffic who had yet to pit. So we wanted to make the most of that. We stayed out a couple of laps. In hindsight, I might have wanted to pit a lap earlier, just because I saw, at least in the final stint, I would have. But I think the first stint, it just worked out for Matthew a bit better than others would have helped. But no, that was the whole plan, was to stay out as long as we could to optimize the soft stints at the end.
Absolutely. And I think that justified itself as well, because you came out, down in P11, and then you were able to make up even more positions. And then you were sort of knocking on the door of, I think it was Amari Watson on the last few laps. It seems like you were in DRS range of him for a while. Was there any reason you couldn't quite get that move done?
Like I say, originally I was going to pit with Amari, and the tyre still felt good when I caught him at the end of the second stint. And I saw he came in, and I was hoping that he might come out in slower traffic. And when we stayed out on that lap, we noticed that Wopke has closed in a lot, and there was a very small gap between Amari, so we had to push to come in that lap. I wanted better tyres so I could push more, but when I came out and it was right on the back of him, I needed to get in front of him as soon as possible, just because I knew later in the stint follow him would have been too difficult. Because these tyres this year, they're so fragile to temperature. If you push a little bit, or if you get too close to the cars ahead, the tyres become too hot, and it's a lot harder to race. So the whole idea was to try getting past early on, and then hold him back, because he'd have had less tyres, so he wouldn't be able to come back later on. But unfortunately, we couldn't do that. We had a few goes, especially at the end as well. But there was just not really much more I could have done myself today, unfortunately. But Amari drove well. He drove the perfect race in that final stint, so GG to him.
Yeah, and great for him as well in his first race with a new team, and a very good race for yourself as well. So congratulations. Ewan, any further questions?
Just you saying that your race pace is getting there. We saw in Canada you had a really good quality. Unfortunately, it didn't end up the way we wanted it all to see you. Actually at the front from the start of the race instead of having to fight your way through. Can you do in France? Is that a good track for you? Is that one that you're looking forward to? Are you going to be able to put yourself in play, even racing with the likes of Sandeep and Thomas and Matteo?
That is the plan. The last couple of races, we've had an older engine as well. We should be going to a newer engine, so a bit more on the competitive side of things. But yeah, I do plan on being back up there. I know I can do it from last year, fighting for podiums and top 5 consistently. So the whole plan is to get there, and yeah, work for France begins tonight. So yeah. Hopefully I'll be up there. We'll see.
Oh, seriously, they take it, Jacob. They take it seriously.
Absolutely. We're straight back on the grind. You love to hear it. Great dedication as well to the cause. And thank you very much for the interview, Jack.
Thank you.
Right then, time for one more. Let's bring in Sandeep to talk all things Pescara. Obviously, they are battling stacks in the championship. And there is Sandeep. Jacob, over to you.
Hello, Sandeep. How you doing?
Hello, I'm good, thanks.
Good. So obviously that race got a little bit better for you towards the very end when you were able to get past Keersmakers. So it seemed to us for a long portion of that race that Matteo Keersmakers was pretty comfortable in P4. At what point did that suddenly shift? And did you always feel that you had it in you to get that 4th place away from him?
Yeah. I felt much quicker. I lost quite a bit of time when I was trying to keep Lardu back and also trying to save my tyres at the same time. And then I think it must have been like 3 and a bit seconds. And then since put the mediums on, the car felt very, very good. I managed to close the gap right back up to him to about a second and a bit. And then the last stint, the in-lap was I done a really good in-lap. I managed to close right up to Matteo actually. And then since I put the softs on, I just wanted to ease the tyres in a little bit before I started pushing on them because I didn't want to wreck them early. And then he had a couple of scruffy laps and I managed to make the most of it.
Speaking of scruffiness, the overtake itself wasn't necessarily the cleanest thing I've ever seen. You yourself almost losing it on the inside of turn 6. How was that?
Yeah, I just I was trying to quickly adjust the bias as I was going into braking zone, but I still left it too much to the rear, and then the rear kind of locked up under braking, and then luckily it like half spin, but it didn't go into I still managed to like keep it sort of straight enough that I'll get a decent enough exit, and then yeah, I managed to gain a position. I'm not sure what's gonna happen if that's an illegal overtake or not. I thought I had the move done, regardless of what happened.
Yeah,
But
I will say I don't think you got a competitive advantage from that maneuver, shall we say? So I think you're probably the home
I
dry
think
on that.
I mean I was on track. I mean I was on throttle as I was on the grass, so obviously they've got better traction out of there. But yeah, then I managed to. The next few laps, I was keeping an eye on Harvey. I managed to break DRS off him, which was crucial. And then I just tried to see if I could put some pressure on P3. But yeah, I think Williams has managed to just bringing it home in the end. But yeah, solid points for Pescara. I'm happy for Quincy. He's had a lot of bad luck, but he managed to get his win. I WhatsApped him this morning telling him go get it. And then I also want to wish Eros, my team manager, happy birthday. I hope you gave him a good present.
All right. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I believe Pescara have claimed the lead in the constructors' standings just about with that result here today. So, yeah, that's a pretty good present to have given him. So, congratulations on that as well. Ewan, any further questions from you?
I was just about to say, I think you took words out of my mouth. You know exactly what the team needs with you and Alessandro constantly getting top 5, so you've got to be happy with that. But obviously, you've just mentioned that it's Eros's birthday, so Eros Mashuli, happy birthday, sir.
All right. And thank you very, very much, Sandeep, for joining us for the interview. And congratulations on your 4th place finish.
Thank you. Thanks for doing the comms, guys.
No worries. It's our pleasure. The racing's fantastic. So. All right. So with that, I believe that rounds up all of our interviews. I don't think we have too much left to say now. Ewan, any parting words before we go here?
Well, yet again, we've been treated to a wonderful race with some fantastic racing, and it's gone down to the wire between Kintai and Ayres again. So, like I said to Michael just now, hopefully we get round 3 with the gloves off in France in 2 weeks' time.
Absolutely. And just because the race is over today doesn't mean the GPVWC action is over. Super League will be on Thursday, so make sure you tune in for that. And the next Superleague Lights race will be in a couple of weeks' time in France, so make sure you're there for that as well. The races have been fantastic this season, and if we get another straight shootout to the finish between Kintai and Ayres, you absolutely do not want to miss that. So make sure you're there, and we'll see you then.